adults. Because of my faith, I've been able to forgive them. And that's a must on my part. And
Hello out there. Anybody out there? Hey, y'all. GGG Farms, Little Lone Prepper, Butch Graves, Dragon Slayer. Welcome, everybody. Looking good. Man, you guys have really gotten it. I don't know if you're in the Denver area. I understand that area really got pummeled with snow, and that's kind of bad. Dragon Slayer, good evening. How are you? And we'll just give it a minute or two here. What's y'all's impressions over Volume 2, Surviving Home? Man, I tell you what, I really like his writing style. I really like the depth that he gets into some of these things. I think when we have the opportunity to interview him, yeah, it's in the I think it was 70 here as well. Let me check what it is right now. They're saying we're going to be in the 70s all the rest of this week. There is a channel, Ryan Hall Y'all, and he's a meteorologist. Let me tell you, that guy just does fantastic meteorology and predictions and everything else. So just really great. So we were 62 is our high today here in the Austin area. But pretty pleasant day. It was kind of dreary in the sense that we had a little bit of rainfall. We still, even though we had 1.29 inches so far. Hello, Jay Creature. We've had 1.29 inches of rain so far this month. We're way below normal for the year, and we're still considered in extreme drought here in Central Texas. Midwest. Oh, wow. So Dragon Slayer, you must really be familiar with a lot of the places in this book or in this series. It's all around Ocala, Florida. So, which is kind of there. I think that's kind of the southern third, right at that dividing line between the southern 1/3 and the southern 2/3. But anyhow, ideas, impressions of the book so far, thoughts? The author, we're going to be interviewing him. Hello, Tofu. Hey, I need for you to send me an email with the link to your actual, what do you call it, channel. I went to make you a moderator today, Hello Tofu, and there are like 4 or 5 different Hello Tofus. And the one I first selected is a 16-year-old kid in the Philippines. So make sure you send me an email with the actual link to your channel, and that way I can make you a moderator again. And would love to have you back. Absolutely. Marie 2024. No, I understand. And my wife has TBM or TBI, traumatic brain injury, from a car accident. So I can empathize with where you're coming from. Little Lone Prepper, let me tell you, there's an awful lot of learning in these books, an awful lot. They are worth the money to invest in them. Okay, so it's a little bit north of you. Well, let me check. Maybe you did. Yes, you did. I got it. I just can't do it right now while we're on the live. Maybe I can. Let me see. Well, no. I will do that. I will make you a moderator again as soon as this one's over, and be happy to have you back. Thank you very much for that. So kind of let's talk about a recap of volume 1. So in volume 1, Morgan, the hero, the antagonist of the story, is on a business trip in northern portions of Florida. And it appears that an EMP hits, and so everything that's powered by electricity, or at least the vast majority of it, goes dead. So he begins heading south towards his home near Ocala. And I assume it's near the lake. And as he is heading south, he has a whole bunch of encounters, and you begin to see that the world has really changed. And no more, it's without rule of law. There's a whole bunch of things that are being done in indiscriminate ways, and people are kind of losing their minds and acting less than civil with each other, and so dire measures are called for. And he takes extreme measures in several examples. I think by the end of volume 1, he's killed 7 people. But anyhow, Morgan hits up with a couple of other people who are also in the same predicament. So the first one he hits up with is a young woman by the name of Jess, and I'm gonna guess that Jess is probably in her mid-20s, early to mid-20s. From my personal impression, she's a fairly attractive woman. Just got caught up in everything, and so she and Morgan hook up, and he's going to help her get home to her home, which is also in west central South Texas, Florida. And so then Jess and Morgan then meet up with Thad, and Thad is a trucker and a humongous black guy that's just, they say he constantly has an ear-to-ear grin. He's just a very jovial type of a guy. And Jay, that's absolutely true. I'll get to that in just a second. So anyhow, so the three of them are kind of now going through these encounters together. And as Jay, do you want to join me on here? I can put the link on here, and you can kind of get in on this, on describing things if you'd like to. But anyhow, they get into a small altercation with a group of people, some young kids. And during the altercation, Jess fires a gun for the first time in her life and accidentally shoots Morgan. Accidentally shoots Morgan across the crease of his head, shooting him in the head. And so that becomes a standing joke throughout the rest of the series, is Jess shooting the protagonist, Morgan, in the head. So then they come across another group of guys, and they come across another guy. And this is kind of a side story that's going to run parallel, and then it's all going to come together. And the side story is a guy by the name of Sarge. I've had this picture of Sarge in my mind and rereading, because what I found out, look at this. This is who was I was just talking to? Who said that they had PTSD from an accident. So what I found that I was reading this book originally, and this is my wife's menu for her hospital stay when she was in the hospital after her car wreck, and that happened July 1st of 2018. Yeah, 2018. So I guess I was reading this book. Let me see, when was 2019? July 1st, 2019 was when she had her car wreck. She was T-boned. Guy hit her in the side, the passenger side. He was doing like 65, and of course she was still, basically. And it totaled the car. And my 1-year-old grandson was sitting in a car seat in the back seat. He was nothing wrong with him whatsoever. Some bruises from the straps from his car seat because he was put in it correctly and the car seat was installed correctly. But Helen had a broken pelvis, 7 breaks in her pelvis, 2 breaks in her left arm, a lot of cuts on her right side, of course, traumatic brain injury because her head went into the window. So, a lot of good stuff there. So But I was in the hospital. I stayed with her for a week, living in the hospital and eating in the cafeteria. But and just coming home long enough to let the girls out to go to the potty. And my daughter did a good job of taking care of the dogs for us. But finding this kind of brought back some memories of the hospital. That I was using that as a page marker the first time I read this book. But anyhow, hi, Peaceful Monkey, and welcome. No, you're fine. So anyhow, so now the three of them have kind of they start splitting up. Jess goes to her home. Thad goes to his home, and then they kind of split up, and Sarge is going his way. So Morgan makes it all the way to his home. Volume 2 picks up with Morgan being at home. And now he's trying to organize his friends. Danny, a new guy comes into the picture by the name of Jeff. And Jeff is kind of a loner. I think of him as being a sniper of some sort. He has a souped up Mosin Nagant that he's going to use throughout. And then things happen at Thad's home, and Thad's family gets executed, basically. They're using mailmen to go in and tell the people to DHS is kind of taken over. So you've got DHS versus the military. The military is staying true to the government. DHS is trying to take over in lieu of an existing government. Hi, Lori, welcome. And so you've got this confrontation between the military and DHS. And so DHS is using the post office to go out to all the citizens and tell them that they want them to go into these DHS or FEMA camps. And so DHS is trying to get everybody in there. And it's kind of like a concentration camp, in a lack of a better word. Then they're using some of the militias, and Florida's famous for some of their anti-government militias. So what they're doing is, and this one guy thinks he's outsmarting DHS, and his little militia group is going to get everything they can from DHS until they can turn on DHS. And so one of the techniques that DHS is using is they're going out and scaring people with raids on encampments and groups of people and homes and everything else, and to prove to them that they need protection so that they'll voluntarily go into the camps. Very common technique. Scare people into them believing that you are their salvation so that you can enslave them. Very, very common. And so that's what we see happening here. And so anyhow, so Thad's family gets executed. The mailman and a DHS guy go and light the house on fire, shoot them. Thad gets retribution on the mailman and the DHS guy. And then he travels to be back with Morgan because he had Morgan and Thad had become very good friends. Morgan reminds me of a stagecoach, the guy that sat the shotgun. That's where you get the term shotgun seat in a car. Is the left guy held the reins, the right guy in the driver's seat up front held the shotgun. So Thad has this double barrel shotgun that he's always got, sawed-off shotgun that he's always got with him. And so, you think of him as being the stagecoach shotgun guy because you already have the impression of him being a truck driver. So that is just, he's, let me see, Jay says Thad can be medieval and violent or sheepish and helpful. That's, the guy can turn on a dime. I mean, not one of those guys you want to mess around with. Absolutely one of those guys that you don't want to offend. Let's put it that way. So he hooks up with Morgan. Jeff comes in, motorcycle rider who has the most in the gun. He hooks up with them. Danny is Morgan's best friend. They're there. Reggie is another character in the film who has a tractor who ends up digging most of the graves with this tractor because a lot of people die in this post-apocalyptic world. It becomes very, very violent. And I think, is it Reggie gets his finger shot off? I think so. When DHS or when the militia comes to attack the homestead of Morgan and Danny and all these other guys. The homestead, basically, the attackers get a little bit wounded. They wound Morgan's daughter in the leg. They shoot off, I think it's Reggie's finger while he's shooting his pistol. And then Sarge and his group have been picked up, taken to an army camp. They've been given special weapons and equipment, 2 high-power dune buggies. One's a 7-passenger and one's a 4-passenger, all kinds of equipment. They've got a couple miniguns. They've got a squad automatic weapon, which is a 5.56 millimeter machine gun, basically. And so you'll see that in the book as a SAW, SAW, squad automatic weapon. But I read 10 books, and I was having a discussion with Toolman Tim. And Toolman Tim, right now, while we're doing volume 2 on his channel, he's doing volume 6. So he's 4 volumes ahead of us. So I said, what I may do is I may move my book club to 7 o'clock on Thursdays, the last Thursday, so that I can participate in your book club at 8 o'clock, which is 6 volumes ahead of us, or 4 volumes ahead of them. Yeah, Stump Knockers, Sarge's call sign. But you know what? I was talking with him and I said, these are my impressions of Sarge, and I said, he's not a first sergeant. I would be calling him Top instead of Sarge. And I came up with all these different reasons why my impression was he was a retired SFC, probably, and I couldn't get the connection, how he was connected with SF, because my impression is that Danny, Ted, and Doc are SF, and so couldn't figure out how Sarge, who was 101st, would be hooked up with SF. Well, a lot of things have changed. Somebody came on last time and got me straight on that. A lot of things have changed since I retired. When I retired, 10th Special Forces Group was headquartered in Bad Tölz, Germany. Now they're headquartered in Fort Carson, Colorado. First group was Spokane, SeaTac, Fort Lewis, and then now it's Joint Base Lewis. And 5th group was out of Fort Bragg. I understand the 5th group has moved from Fort Bragg post my retirement in '91 to Fort Campbell. So now I can see how Special Forces and 101st, which is Fort Campbell, are kind of integrated with each other. Reading the book, when Colonel what's the colonel's name? Lawson, I believe. Lawson calls him First Sergeant Mitchell. So we find out that he is a first sergeant. But let me tell you, here's one of the things I want to ask a American Monday night. He knows way too much about special operations and 101st and oh yeah, Jay, that was devastating when he had to give up his truck. Yes, that's absolutely true. Hello, Tofu. So Jay Creature says that they're fantastic audiobooks as well. But anyhow, I forget where I was. They've been picked up. They've been re-equipped, given 2 truckloads full of equipment and everything else. And Sarge had hooked up Thad, Jess, and Morgan with radio equipment. And from the sounds of it, it's encrypted, military-grade encryption, and they can communicate through encrypted communications. And so Sarge and Morgan are communicating about Morgan's needs. They're running out of food, and all this other kinds of stuff. They've been attacked by DHS. So when Sarge and the crew, they need a place to go because their place has been compromised. Sarge's old truck that sounds like it was a Champ gets destroyed, and so they get picked up by a helicopter. And as they're taken in, this Colonel, I think it's Lawson, equips them with everything, and they puts them on a special mission to go out and act as an insurgency unit against DHS. So they're going to hook up now with Morgan. The last 3-4 chapters of this book, of this chapter, they're hooking up with Morgan and going to run basically their counter DHS insurgency in that area of South Central Florida, in conjunction with Morgan and his group. So what happens is, it just so happens that they land their stuff by sling load, by helicopter in this field, and the guys who had attacked Morgan and his group a couple days before, or the day before, hear the helicopters and they go check it out. And so one of the guys is the guy who shot actually shot 3. Morgan got shot in the chest, and one of his magazines for his AR basically takes the brunt of the round and knocks the air out of him, kind of knocks him silly, but saves his life. And then his daughter and then Reggie gets shot. So those same guys go to check out the 4 Sarge and the 3 SF guys, and they capture the 4 of them and bring them to Morgan, and then a little bit of question and answering under austere conditions takes place. And so we find out the intentions and everything else, and they decide they're going to make an example of the 4 militia guys who had attacked the camp. And so they execute them and place their bodies in an X in the middle of a road that they know DHS is going to be on, and they put a plaque on them and said, "This is what happens to murderers and thieves." And so that's knowing that the DHS is going to find them. But now that poses a problem, because now that's a threat to Morgan, because there's too much proximity between the attack on Morgan's compound, let's call it, and the retaliation against this group. And so they have to move. And simultaneous with that, they go out on another operation. Sarge and the guys, and 1 or 2 of the guys from the Morgan compound go out and attack, and they basically kill the rest of the militiamen and in an operation, and come back. They start doing a little bit of surveillance of the compound, the DHS compound, let's call it that out of respect, but it's actually a concentration camp, an ideological concentration camp, for lack of a better word. And so book 2 ends with something very, very interesting, and that is that Thad and one of the special forces guys that's observing the concentration camp, there's 2 women. They're filling sandbags, and he said, and so one of them, the 2 guys are discussing among themselves, is that Jess? So now we find Jess has been forced into this camp, and she's filling sandbags. So this book ends with the potential for all 3 of the original crew, the Thad, Morgan, Jess crew, getting reunited if they can somehow or other get Jess out of the camp. So that's kind of where it ends. But it also ends with the fact that now that Morgan's compound is compromised, they have to move his family away from his home that he had set up. He was a prepper. He had set it up in preparation for something like this happening. So he had a complete solar system. He had a HF ham rig set up outside. He had all kinds of ammunition, weapons. He had a very good stockpile of food, which became a problem at point, because all those people who had not prepared expected him to feed them. Mark, who is the local deputy sheriff, is constantly after Morgan to share his stuff with the rest of the community. As a matter of fact, we find here, probably the last quarter of the book, Mark has gone over and is providing DHS with information about the compound. So you get this kind of impression there towards the end of the book, of this book, that Mark was in on providing at least the information on how to attack the compound. Okay, so let me get up here and catch up with the flag. I love the counterintelligence surveillance they used on the radio. Yes. And that's So remember that my 21 years in the Army, I was signals intelligence. My original MOS was a 98 Bravo, which is a code breaker. And then NSA did away with code breakers 1973. And so the Army did away with the MOS 98 Bravo. And so they sent me back to Russian language school and converted me from a 98 Bravo to a 98 Gulf, which is a voice intercept operator. So I'm very familiar with intercept operations. I'm very familiar with direction finding operations. Then we also have ICD, which is imitative communications deception. That's where we can learn enough about your communications to where we can intrude inside of your communications and have you believe that we're giving you valid orders to open a corridor for us to move through or anything else. And so that's why I went through 2 years of Russian language school. Plus, they sent me to the Russian diplomatic translators course, and they also sent me to another 3-month-long course, total immersion course, is because they want us to speak as well as a typical Russian, so that we can get into ICD if it comes to war. So a lot of the radio stuff that's going on here, I'm extremely familiar with. I'm very surprised at how well they're doing it. They really have their poo-poo in one bird bag, as we would say. Okay, so Jay is recommending the audiobooks. Lori likes listening to them. What was it she did? I forgot what she did. Help us, Jay. Reinforce us on that one. Remind me. Okay, so what Jay's talking about here when he smoked that lady in the yard, her name is Alice. And so basically what he did was Alice was one of those Karens. And so they would line up for food that was distributed by the group. And she would complain, of course, that Morgan had food hidden and everything else. And she was just a constant Karen. And her husband and son were a constant pain in the sides too. It was believed, but not ever proven, that her son was guilty of taking one of the cute young women who was in that community aside and raping her and killing her. But anyhow, then there was suspicion there. But finally, she came up to Morgan, and I mean, there was a confrontation, and so Morgan just pulled his pistol out and shot her. And then her husband and son kind of took offense to that, so he shot them too. And then they went and took a look at their house, and they had all kinds of stuff prepped up. They had more food than anybody else did, and yet they were still demanding from others give to them. So she was kind of an ugly personality. I've got some pages marked, and I want to read some key passages to you that I think are critical as far as some of the things that are said that I think are just kind of really, really important lines in the book. Let me tell you, there are 3 series, in my opinion, you must read. You must read the Survivalist series by A. American. That's an absolute essential, the one we're doing right now. You must read the Stonemont series by Stephen C. Smith. Now, his is kind of a duplicate of what A. American does, except instead of being set in Florida, Steve has his set in Kansas, in the Kansas City, Kansas area, to peak a little bit south towards Wichita, that central East Kansas area, going as far west as Fort Riley, Manhattan, Junction City, on Interstate 40. And or is that 70 there? I forget. I think it's Interstate 40. Might be 70. To imagine, I spent 3 years of my life there, and I forget what it is. But anyhow, okay. But anyhow, and the A. American series, the Steve Smith series, and then the John Forson series of 1 Second After. His is a trilogy, basically. Those are the 3, I think, quintessential survivalist fiction series that there are. I'm getting ready to read another one, and I'll put a link to it down below. I don't have the book here with me right now, but he's a special forces operator, He left the military. I think he retired and founded Black Rifle Coffee. And so he's got all kinds of experience. And I'm looking forward to reading his book too. There was confrontation in the yard. She threatened to come back and get even. He fixed it. Yep, that's okay. Let me see here. Hello, Prepper Book Club. Let me see let me catch up here. Yeah, one second after had such an influence on me. That's the reason why I have a whole house solar system with battery backup. So when they designed originally, when they came in, they wanted to do a design and they wanted me to give them my annual electricity consumption. And you have peaks and troughs in consumption. And so what they did was they designed the original system at 90% of the average consumption throughout the year. Well, that means I'm not going to be able to run air conditioning in the summer. That's just pure and simple. And I said, you guys screwed up on this. I don't want 90% of average. I want 90% of peak. I know I'll be overproducing in the winter. That's okay. I don't care. But I have to have a little bit of air, temperature control, and I have to have refrigeration for insulin because we do have a type 1 brittle diabetic in the family. And so Fortune, having one of his family members and having to bury them as a result of not having insulin, convinced me to do everything I can to have means of keeping insulin cool here in the house. Now that I have the whole solar system, the battery backup, I have a Jackery. I also, what's his name? Pinball Preparedness has a deal with Everett, and Everett owns, I forget the name of the company, but they had a special for pinball watchers here 9 months ago, and it was a solar powered refrigerator freezer. And I thought, ooh, that's a good third backup for everything else. So I ordered it and put it on a monthly installment plan, $67 a month for the rest of my life, or I don't know. But anyhow, that's how much of an impact that had on me. That the 1 Second After series had on me. So good series. And then the fourth one is probably going to be this one that's by the guy who founded Black Rifle Coffee. Okay, so you're the second one to say that. Dragon Slayer was saying that earlier, and you're saying that, so that's great to hear. And that's something we're finding both in A. American's books as well as in Stephen C. Smith's books, is people rapidly adapting to the fact that life has dramatically changed, and that the way things were yesterday is not the way they are today. In Stephen Smith's series, as he's going home, or as his nephew is coming home, he encounters a guy, his wife and college daughter, who's just graduated from college, and these bad guys are getting ready to rape the wife and daughter. And so these two guys, his nephew and his friend, end up shooting the three guys trying to rape the college age girl and her mother. And it turns out that the father of the two is a judge, and the daughter just graduated from law school at University of Kansas, and so I think it's in Lawrence. And so anyhow, so they become part of that core cadre of the Stonemont. We're going to call that we call that Stonemont, and then in the American series, I'm going to call it the Morgan Enclave or the Morgan community. But oh wow, interesting. But I think the rapid decay of society is endemic in both of them, and as a matter of fact, I was chatting on a video this morning. Stephen C. Smith, his channel here on YouTube is Integrative Preparedness. So you can follow him. And I made a comment this morning that one of the things that I'm finding common, his books and Americans' books, is that there's this force in the world that causes good people to come together, and it causes bad people to come together. You kind of get attracted to like people. I said, if your goal is to be of a particular type of person, then you set that goal that you will be that person by the end of 2023, and you're the average of the 5 people that you spend your most time with. So, look for 5 people of the quality you want to be and start spending more time with them if that's what you want to be by the end of the year. Lights Out by David Crawford's another good. Okay, let me write that down. I'm getting all these recommendations for books, and so I keep my list here. You'll be book number 3. Prepping with Sarge had recommended The Killer Angels, and Lights Out, David Crawford. Okay. Mad Mix series is prepper porn. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So I'm caught up with all those. So let me give you a couple of the key quotes in here that I've got tabbed that I just thought, really eloquent that that I really liked. So this is one of the initial exchanges very early in the book between Morgan and Mark, the deputy sheriff, who later goes over to DHS. And Mark is trying to force Morgan to give his stash of prepared foods over to the community for the entire community to share. And so Morgan tells Mark, "You can take it. I have some, but not as much as you're thinking. Like I said before, you are the law, and I'm willing to do anything I can to help you guys. But don't get the idea that I have some mountain of food back there. I don't. I'm willing to contribute to you. Take it." So, that kind of, by having that attitude, Mark never really goes in and takes it. But anyhow, that confrontation, that once people find out that you have food you've prepared and they haven't, people are going to go to all extremes to eat. And if they find out you have food and they don't have food, you become the bad guy. You become the enemy. They're going to do everything they can to take it from you. I believe almost to the point where they're even willing to destroy it so that you don't have it if they don't have it. Okay, the next one. This is in reference to the shooting of Anita and her family. And so Mark, of course, is used to the old style law and order. You don't shoot people. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner all at the same time. It has to be due process, and he wants to lock people up even though there is no jail. And so, that whole thought process of what was pre-apocalyptic versus post-apocalyptic and how the mind shifts change. So what do you do with somebody who commits a crime in a post-apocalyptic world? There is no law. There is no judge. There is no jury. There is, are you going to spank them? You going to whip them like you did back in the on the ships of England, or put them in stocks? They do create stocks here in this book. As a matter of fact, in this volume that we're reading now, and but how do you handle some of the lesser crimes? Because there's only two things: you either kind of let them go, or you kill them. And so what's the in between? What's the punishment there in between? Um, just really interesting. So they're having this discussion right after the shooting. It says, Mark, you're a good guy, but you need to open your eyes. What were you going to do to those assholes? The guys who pointed guns at your wife, arrest them? It's like you said, there's no jail time anymore. Fear of being arrested isn't going to keep anyone safe nowadays. The only thing that's going to keep the assholes in line is knowing that they might end up dead. You're damn lucky something worse didn't happen here. And I'll tell you what I did here just made your family safer. So kind of, that post-apocalyptic mindset of you got to take care of things, and it's funny that as I was reviewing these notes today, I'm in a Bible in a Year Bible study. And so I'm one day ahead. So tomorrow's the last day of the year as far as the Bible in a year. I'll have read the entire Bible when I wake up tomorrow morning and do that lesson. But one of the lessons today, and it came out of Revelation, and it says, that if you know what you're supposed to do and you don't do it, that's a sin. And so the same thing with taking care of bad guys. If you're the good guy and you don't take care of the bad guys, and so that you can save the good guys for the future, that's a sin. You got to do what you're supposed to do in order to be okay, right? And I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think Morgan does, but at the same time, he acts quick enough to where even when you say that was probably the right thing to do, there's still that little bit of fog up here saying, is he going a little bit over the edge? He's right there, and so kind of strange. There's a fantastic one in 2 Thessalonians, Jay, that I think you're going to really like. I'll get to it here in just a bit. So then they created this barricade at the front gate, at the entrance, if you will, to this small community. And then all of a sudden they had a commotion at the front gate, and they realized they needed to have a way of communicating with each other. So it turns out, I think it was Reggie, had a cowbell or a dinner bell or something. I just think of it as either being a ship's bell or a triangular bell or something like that. And they I guess it was a ship's bell, and a big one. And they set it out at the front entrance so that they could clang it if they needed assistance. So 1 ring means that they needed a mark or a deputy, and 3 rings in rapid succession meant there was a problem. So it had to be a pretty big bell in order for 1 ring to be able to be heard. Or was it one the ring, and then the other was the ring, type of deal? I don't know. I bought the hand cranked siren for our community for that purpose, not because of this book, but because of another one. And so I have a hand cranked siren that we'll use at our control point. Then I also bought some marine whistles that you use on lifeboats. Those things are very powerful and they can be heard. So I have 10 of those I'll give out to the guards. But that's how we're going to communicate. Well, thank you. I think the first book I think is Going Home. Absolutely, and that was quite common, and I just did I responded to a thing today on person was talking about you don't have to act on your faith. And I said, oh, but wait a minute, the Bible is full of examples where you had to take action once you say you believe, and that was one of the examples I used was Joshua had to march around the city of Jericho 7 times before the walls fell. So he had faith that the walls would fall, but he had to take an action. He had to march. Yes, and so they made the gabion walls, but the thing is, still by the end of this book, those gabion walls are not filled with sand. So they're only effective once they're filled with sand. Hello, Alpine Preparedness. You've got some great videos out there. I love that one of your husband flying in Nepal. That was just gorgeous scenery. Really enjoyed that one today. Not very long either, only about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, but just gorgeous scenery. Let me get down here. This is a series that is worth going through a few times. That's why I left the audiobook, because I can do it. Yep, absolutely. Okay, yeah, Going Home is the first book. Thank you. That's okay, Peaceful Monkey. Welcome. Yeah, and those orange lifeboat whistles are phenomenal. Okay, so here we are in chapter 12, and so we're talking about that code that they created to get people to come to the front gate in response to a possible alarm. So what happens is a family comes by, and when you think of this horde of people leaving the cities, Stephen Smith says he doesn't believe in the Golden Horde. I've heard a lot of people say they don't believe in Golden Horde. So what we see, it's not like the southern border right now. It's more, you've got families, kind of on their own, and there's this constant stream of families coming up this highway, and maybe figure a family every 2 minutes or a family every 5 minutes or something like that. But you've got this constant stream of people. They're not coalesced into one big group. It's just the mass of people that spread out. So one group of people comes up to the gate, and they've got a little girl. There's a group of them. They feel sorry for them. They give them some water. They give them some food and send them on their way. Well, later on, what forces them to have to establish those Gambians and come up with the code system is that family comes back and they want more, and they're willing to take it by force. And so that's when they have to respond. One or two guys get killed, and they have to respond with force and kill all these people in this family. And by this time, they've gotten a couple other families with them. And so, kind of think about the repercussions of aiding other people. And so the same thing happens later on in the second. They didn't learn from the first one. Well, of course, it's a little bit. The youngest daughter of Morgan is at the gate with Morgan. A family walks by. There's a girl in that family the same age as Little Bit. They wave at each other. The family comes over. Morgan says, "Look, I can't feed you in front of all these other families, but if you come over here and hide, then I'll go get you some food. Please don't eat where anybody can see you or anything else." And so they kind of feed them. Then the same thing. That family later, kind of does their thing to betray the generosity of the Morgan compound. Oh, Peaceful Monkey, that's quite all right. I know because Toolman Tim and I conflict with each other here. And, I like I was telling people earlier, I'm thinking about moving my time to an earlier time, possibly, or a different day of the month or something, simply because I love Toolman Tim and I don't want to conflict with him. I forget who I was talking to. It might have been Alpine Preparedness. It might have been Prepping by Faith. It might have been Prepper Dog. And I was saying, trying to find a time to do some of these where you're not conflicting with another channel that you really admire is very difficult. And the same thing, I know I'm conflicting with Angry Prepper. I love the Angry Prepper, and I don't want to conflict with him. And so trying to find a time when you're not conflicting with another superior content producer, it's becoming impossible on YouTube. And whoever it was I was talking to says, just do your own thing. Find a time, do it, and do it well. Yes, Prepper Book Club. There are now 11 series. I just received the 11th book in the series. Engineering Home is the name of it, and so I've got it. I probably won't read it early because I'm in the process of rereading all these for this book club. Last year, I did a video on this. Last year, I read 42 books, so that's basically 3.5 books per month, and not counting the ones that we did for the book club. And so, I have a fairly aggressive reading schedule, and so I'm not so sure I'll be able to get to engineering home until it's time to get to an engineering home. Okay, let's get on back here to some more of these famous quotes. So one of them that I got was he says, Mel has made some fantastic meals. Mel is Morgan's wife. And so she's doing some fantastic cooking. And there's this little exchange that I said, this is something I got to check out. And I recommend that you check it out. I said, Mel, that's great. I had to hand it to her. She did a good job cooking it. Mel had taken some time to learn from some books like, Making the Best of Basics, which is a cookbook. So, write that down, Making the Best of Basics. So that's kind of an apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic cookbook that might be great for you to have in your Pepper pantry or in your Pepper library. The other one, he says, and had always written down recipes from a website she watched called Hillbilly Housewife. So that's another one we need to check out is Hillbilly Housewife and some of those recipes in there. Jay, I have no idea, and I am so afraid that I'm going to either reveal too much from a book that's coming up or that I'm screwing up between the Stonemont series and the American series. I am always extremely cautious of that, which is why I have a little notepad of the key things I want to discuss. And if I get too much off of my notepad and what I want to discuss, then chances are you're going to catch me because that's my secret little repertoire. There is having notes to discuss, and then of course having my tabs and my highlights. So yeah, Making the Most of Basics is the book, and Hillbilly Housewife is the website. Thank you, Hello Tofu. So let me see, who do I have here? Lori, could you do me a favor real quick and look up on YouTube Hillbilly Housewife? And if that is a channel, can you put that link here for everybody to subscribe to? So they're talking about uniformity and uniforms and what looks suspicious and what doesn't look suspicious. And so Morgan makes an observation, and he says, I saw more than one grown man wearing a backpack for a child. And it reminded me of the shows about the border where the immigrants would be trying to walk from Mexico into the U.S. with a Hello Kitty backpack. A few of them were dragging rolling style luggage or maybe a wagon with bundles in it and a child or two. So one of the things I did when I first started reading these books, and when I first started watching, well, thank you, Jay. And when I first started watching YouTube, not a channel creator, but watching it, I was doing most of my prepping stuff on Facebook, which is, I think, what got me kicked off. But we were talking about being the gray man. And so I figured, well, the homeless all have backpacks and they all dress and everything. So as the HR director of the third largest homeless shelter in the U.S., my office window looked down and directly behind me was the Salvation Army. So in between us was an alleyway that they used for their restroom. So almost every homeless person there who did not come inside either of the Salvation Army or us. Then in front of us was what's the name of Caritas, Caritas, which is the Catholic Charities, and then 2 blocks or 1 block across the parking lot was St. David's homeless shelter. So we had 4 homeless shelters in a 1 block radius. But anyhow, okay, did we find that link? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So let me see if I can't find that and put it up here for you. But anyhow, I looked out my window and kept track for an entire month on what clothing were they wearing and what kind of a backpack did they have. And so I came to the conclusion there was no commonality, and uh, the most common um, uniform or clothing that gosh, I'm subscribed to Hillbilly Kitchen. What am I talking about? Yeah, her husband just passed away, Becky, and her husband just passed away last year with diabetes, as a matter of fact, complications of diabetes. Yeah, gosh, yeah, I know Hillbilly Kitchen. I don't even know why I had to look it up. She's fantastic. She's phenomenal. She's outstanding. As a matter of fact, it's because of her and watching her. She did a video on how to have a YouTube channel. She's the one who recommended this microphone. She's the one who recommended the light that I have shining on me right now for this video. So, I mean, phenomenal channel. Absolutely. Watch Hillbilly Kitchen. I gosh, I had to go to the channel and look at it. And then I got so excited that I knew who she was that I forgot to do what I was going to do, which is let's get that link and let's bring it over here. And please subscribe and view her videos. Phenomenal. And she puts quite a bit of scripture into her recipes as well. Yeah, so the homeless population, let me tell you, some of the recipes that I have are from the homeless, and I learn an awful lot from them as far as what it takes to survive, and but they also and it's because the homeless that I quit smoking, because it was probably one of the homeless coughing in the elevator that gave me community acquired MRSA pneumonia, and spent 3 months in the uh, IC or 3 weeks in the ICU with MRSA pneumonia. Thank you, Lori. Gosh, you're a champ. Um, I haven't seen the road, but I can tell you that homeless people are constantly stuck in. If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you're in that period of living for today, and then as an afterthought, what am I going to do to live tomorrow? They're definitely in that living, surviving for today mode, and that's a constant thing. How am I going to survive today? And so, there was this female minister that later I came to know personally, and she would come down to the shelter and then they would pass out hot dogs. And it was impossible to try to get her to stop passing out hot dogs because she felt she was doing the right thing. Well, the guys at the front of the line who got the hot dogs would immediately go back to the back of the line and sell them for 50 cents or $1 to the guys in the back who knew they weren't going to get there. Okay. So to them, that hot dog was not a meal. That hot dog was a means to acquire money for either alcohol or drugs. When we did our point in time survey, so once a year, all of the homeless shelters plus ECHO, which is the organization bureaucracy, organization created by the city to govern all of the other homeless shelters and homeless entities. So you create this foundation. I think there are more people administering the homeless grants and everything to the homeless shelters than there were people working in the homeless shelters. But you create this bureaucracy; it's unbelievable. But we had over 400 people go out one night a year, and we would try to survey how many homeless there were, why they were homeless, all this kinds of stuff. 80% of them were self-confessed, addicted to either drugs or alcohol. 20% were transient homeless, which means they lost their job, divorce, something emotionally unsettling. They just kind of, fell down on their things in life, and that's where they were. But anyhow, going back to that story, there was no pattern. So you could not tell that they were, I saw camouflage, I saw black, I saw gunmetal gray, I saw brown, I saw Hello Kitty, I saw Buzz Lightyear. I saw all kinds of backpacks. And so to say that you're going to be out of place if you have a particular type of backpack or something else, no. And if you think you're going to be out of place wearing ACUs and you're in Killeen or Coppers Cove, Texas, you're not. You've got an entire division of people that are wearing ACUs. Here we've got in the Austin area, we've got a division headquarters for the National Guard, the head of the Texas Military Forces, which is Texas has its own guard, the Texas State Guard. So we have two divisional headquarters right here in the Austin area. So there's ACUs all over the area. And of course, there's plenty of guys who do the hour commute between here and Fort Hood. So they'll live here in the area. So ACUs are not out of the norm for people to see here in this area. So just kind of some of the ideas around being the gray man. And then the comment that I had discussed with Steve Smith this morning on his website, chapter 35, people worth a shit seem to be drawn together. So there's this old saying, it takes one to know one. And I think what that means is it takes an honorable person to know an honorable person. And it takes a dishonorable person to know a dishonorable person. So I think people of like minds cohese, or they're attracted towards each other, especially during times of conflict. And that's where we're going to get a lot of our symbiosis, if you will. I'm not sure where she's from. It could be Western North Carolina, somewhere probably in the Asheville area, but I don't know. I would say North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee area, basically. Okay. Are you fairly close to Asheville? Oh, God, I love Asheville as far as pretty, but God, it's become another Austin as far as liberal run. I was working. What's the name of that company in Asheville that makes axles for trucks and trailers? And they were trying to unionize, and I helped them. At that time I was a union avoidance consultant, and did some work with them for a while. I want to say Avatar, but it's not. It's something like that. And anyhow, so I spent 18 weeks in Asheville. Oh my God, what a gorgeous place! Now, one time they have a fairly small. They have those smaller Metroliner aircraft that land in Asheville. So we flew from Austin to Atlanta, and that flight arrived late, so we missed our flight, the last flight up to Asheville for the night. So we rented a car and drove up the Great Smoky Mountain Trail between Atlanta and Asheville. Oh my God, was that gorgeous! That's some beautiful area, unbelievably gorgeous. Well, and let's go back to this comment by Hello Tofu. When we had Snowmageddon in February of 2021, I still owned my store. My store was on Interstate 35, on an access road to Interstate 35. There was a creek, basically a dry creek bed, just south of my store. And so there were a couple of homeless guys that lived underneath the freeway overpasses for that dry creek bed. One was an alcoholic and the other was a druggie. And they would come by the store on a regular basis, and I'd say, come on in, if you'll take my trash out, I'll give you $1, or if you'll sweep the store, I'll give you $1. So I used to pay them to do little things around the store. And I was concerned during Snowmageddon of 2021. So I went down and got the two of them and put them in my car, and I took them to Academy and Walmart and other places, and got them a little hobo stove with actually an Esbit stove or Sterno stove and a case of Sterno, and got them hats and gloves and some other stuff to keep them warm during the Snowmageddon. Because they said they didn't want anything else. That's all they wanted was to be warm. And then a whole bunch of foods that they could warm up, canned goods and stuff like that they could warm up on the stove, and coffee, instant coffee, and bottled water, and all that kind of stuff. I went looking for them here for this Snowmageddon, and I couldn't find either one of them. So I don't know if they're still just not there after I sold the store or what, because I don't think the new owner would be conducive to helping out homeless people to the extent that I did. So, Rob, we were just talking about that. I just got in the mail from Amazon, volume 11, which is Engineering Home. So he is, and he's working on volume 12. This morning, talking with Steve Smith of the Stonemont series, he was hoping to have volume 6 out by the end of this month. It's not going to happen. It'll probably be the end of January. So if you're a Stonemont series guy, his book number 6 will be out probably the end of January. If you're an American Survivalist guy, volume 12 is probably going to be out in the next 2 months or so. Please don't forget, Monday night, 8 o'clock. So that's the 2nd of January at 8 o'clock, right here, this channel, we are interviewing the author of the series. His name is Chris. And so the author of A American, the author who goes by the pen name A American, we're going to have him on this channel interviewing him Monday. So please be here with your questions. My question to him is, he sure knows an awful lot about Special Forces operations and an awful lot about the 101st. So I've got to ask him if he was an 18 series MOS, which is Special Forces, because he sure knows an awful lot. So my get home bag that I kept in my truck is a sling bag. It's a Maxpedition sling bag, and it has everything I needed to get home from one town to the next thing, because I live a suburb or two north of Austin. And then I had my store in one town and live in another, and not that far apart. When you're in suburbia, the difference between one city and the next is just a line, a road. Yes, as a matter of fact, when I took my CERT training, Community Emergency Response Team, they gave us backpacks with wheels on them, because sometimes we get issued so much equipment responding to a disaster, first aid supplies or something like that you need to put it on the rollers. You can't wear it on your back. So that's a very true statement. But then again, when you're like Eric Christensen, the CEO of Nutrient Survival, was here in town in November, and he was up a couple towns north of here, but half hour away. And I told him I'd meet him, and I didn't, because it was continually raining, and using my walker in muddy ground and gravel, it was not conducive for that kind of an operation. So most of you don't know, but I am 70. So, there are certain things, and I'm 70% disabled as a result of my military service. So, there are some things that are a little bit more difficult for me to do than it is for the normal person. I don't share that all the time, but that's the reason, Eric, I apologize that I just did not think it would be a good experience with a walker and mud. So I missed that, getting a chance to meet that one person at that time. Hello, Watchman. I did want to share that 2 Thessalonians verse with you all, because I think it's critical. It's something that happened with, and I shared it with Steve Smith, and he really got a kick out of it. And I shared it with Prepper Dog, and he talked about it. Was it 2 Thessalonians or 2 Timothy? Let me see here. I think I have it marked. Yeah, it is the 2 Thessalonians 3, verses 9 and 10. So rather, we wanted to present ourselves as a model for you so that you might imitate us. Verse 10. In fact, when we were with you, we instructed you that if anyone is unwilling to work, neither shall that one eat. So no worky, no eaty. And that's in Second Thessalonians. So, if you have a group and they're not willing to work, stand guard, cut firewood, go get water, what else? You don't have to feed them. It's in the Bible. Um, Thank you, Hello Tofu. What a great suggestion. And the Watchman, thank you for that. Yeah, if you would spread the word, I would love to see this grow. I used to do on Saturdays, I had a Grow Your Channel where we got together for 1 hour on a Saturday evening. And the sole purpose of that was to have all of us small channels who are creators come together. And the premise was that when you came on, your channel link would be displayed for everybody else to sub to you, and you would agree to sub to everybody else. And so that way, all we would do is help each other build our channels so that we could get the word out. There are so many great small channels out there. I'm less than 5,000. There are so many others that are less than 5,000. Alpine Preparedness is on here with us tonight. She has less than 5,000. What a fantastic channel. The Watchmen. I mean, there are channel creators here who put out great content. We just don't have, and I'm not saying I'm anywhere near the quality of a lot of these other channels, but I am saying that there are a lot of small channels out there who deserve to have their word spread and a lot more people be exposed to what they're saying because there's just fantastic content. Yeah, being less than mobile with our legs does present a little bit of a problem. I speaking of Bel Air, I when I bought my disaster response trailer, so I had a contract with FEMA for a couple of years, and right after Hurricane Katrina, and when there was a major disaster like Katrina, I would go serve. I had a contract with FEMA to feed the people who were taking care of the people suffering from the disaster. So you'd have these camps, all these uh, trailers that would come in, and that would be uh, CAT adjusters, catastrophic adjusters for insurance companies and FEMA administrators and all this other kinds of stuff. So they would bring in their trailers, and there'd be a little trailer city, if you will. And then FEMA would provide electricity to all the trailers and sewage and everything else. And then I would go in with my trailer. I had a 24-foot kitchen trailer, and I would serve food to them for the duration of however long they were going to be there. But anyhow, the people who made my trailer, I bought it from a group of people in Bel Air. So I've been to Bel Air, Florida. Drove there. Exactly 24 hours from Austin. Yep, absolutely true. And that's like in Second Thessalonians, he says, if you don't work, you don't eat. No, Jay Creature, that's fantastic. I'll have to check those out. Here's the thing. I may not watch every video that every good content producer puts out there, but I try to hit one video of each content maker that I really like on a daily basis. And there are some who are a little bit more prolific than others. Some of my favorites, Prepping by Faith and Van City Prepper, not Van City Prepper, she changed it to Alpine Preparedness now. They don't put out as frequently as some of the others. Prepper Dog puts one out a day. I try to catch every one that he puts out, but there's just, and the Roaming Prepper, probably every third day. Texas Redleg, maybe once a week. But, there are those that when I do see them, I try to watch what they have because it's worth seeing. Very good content creators out there. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I've never blocked anybody, but there's one guy that got on my channel and started some scriptural talk, and I tried to convince him this is not a scriptural channel. If I bring up scriptures, then feel free to contradict me if you have something that contradicts what I'm saying. But the purpose of my channel is not scripture. The main purpose of my channel is preparedness, and so I want to try to keep it that way. And so this guy, number one, he was preaching what I consider to be false doctrine. And so I didn't appreciate that. And I told him, you may be the first person I've ever blocked from my, knock it off, or you'll be the first person I've ever blocked from being able to produce, say, comment on my channel. And he stopped, and that's good. So I still haven't blocked anybody. When I disagree with somebody, I just don't follow them anymore. I'll stay subscribed. I don't unsubscribe. I want them to keep that number. But I just don't follow them anymore. Just that's all there's to it. Okay, so I definitely will have Peaceful Monkey gives you a thumbs up, so I'll have to watch it. Well, not really a FEMA camp. I guess you could call it that, because what it is you've got all these catastrophic insurance adjusters. They're the ones who are going to go out and investigate everything and do all the insurance adjustments. So yeah, like we will probably have it be in some place like a Walmart parking lot. And then they'll run these cables and they'll have generators, 10 kW generators galore. And then they'll have a gas depot where you can go get a ration of gas for your car to go out to do your insurance adjusting for the day. And then I would have a trailer, my 24-foot trailer. I had a crew of 5. And then my own sleeping trailer, and all this other kinds of stuff. And then I had all kinds of ancillary things that they might want to have for the day, and some personal care items that they could purchase. I couldn't sell tobacco and I couldn't sell alcohol, and that's 2 things most of them really wanted. But that's the problem is, I did one contract where I started off in Texas and went all the way to Florida with a roofing company, and their job was to put the blue 20 mil plastic as temporary roofs over houses after the wind had torn off the roofs as a result of Hurricane Katrina as well. And so I was going to be the HR director for that group as they moved from one state to the next, fulfilling this FEMA contract. Oh my gosh, the different state HR laws are just conflicting like you would not believe. In Louisiana, I was paying as much for worker comp insurance to the state as I was paying in salary. And I was talking to the Secretary of State's office about that. I said, man, I have never seen workers' comp rates as expensive as Louisiana. She says, that's because our employees are smart. They know that if they find a job that's hazardous, they get injured, and they get a good doctor, that they can get worker comp for the rest of their life and not have to work a day for the rest of their life. I thought, okay, now I understand why. People are beating the system and I got to pay for it. Okay. Thank you, CP. Okay. And as you can tell, I keep my Bible fairly close. Jeremiah 51. Let me get my eyes on so I can see it. Oh gosh, we're running way over time. We're going to have to call it quits here pretty quick. Jeremiah 51:6. Now I use the New American Translation, so this may not be what you're used to if you haven't memorized in King James. 51:6-9. Okay, 51:6-9. Flee from Babylon. So come out of here, come out of her, Babylon. Come out of her, my people, basically. Flee from Babylon. Each of you save your own life. Do not perish because of her guilt. This is time of retribution from the Lord, who pays out her due. Babylon was a golden cup in the hands of the Lord, making the whole earth drunk. The nations drank its wine. Thus they have gone mad. Babylon suddenly falls and is broken. Wail over her. Bring balm for her wounds in case she can be healed. We have tried to heal Babylon, but she cannot be healed. Leave her. Each of us must go to our own land. So come out of her, my people. The judgment against her reaches the heavens. It touches the clouds. And so today, it just so happens in my Bible study that we did the Revelation equivalent of that. So in Revelation 19, the Babylon that they're referring to refers. See, here's my notes. Revelation 19 corresponds back to Jeremiah. God, thank you. So you just reminded me of what I studied this morning. Boy, I'm having a short memory, aren't I? But anyhow, let's see. Let's keep on going here, and then we're going to have to probably end this up here pretty quick. Well, I did see comments below, so I may have skipped accidentally one or two of you. I apologize if I overlooked you. Generators and sorts, yes, they are. My daughter came over and got my 5 kW gas for this most recent Snowmageddon. Didn't need it. That's great. She can keep it because I have, we have our own electricity generation here for the city. We're on city power, and the city has its own windmills, solar systems, 100% green, which means that you have either, and then of course a third of it's also hydro. So we have constant electricity. It may be reduced power. During the height of Snowmageddon 2021, we were down to where we got 2 periods a day where we had 4 hours of power. So we had from midnight to 4 a.m. and then we had from noon until 4 p.m. Was when we had our 2 4-hour periods. Rolling brownouts, rolling blackouts here in the city. But we never were down like the city of Austin was. Yes. Chain your generator down. It is crazy. And they make noise, and people are attracted to them. Please be cognizant of the fact that during a SHDF environment, if nobody has power and they can hear your generator running and know you have power, they're going to come to you because you've just targeted yourself. So you'll consider when you're going to, there is an appropriate time in that timeline of when to use your generator, and there's a time when you probably don't want to use your generator because it may attract undue attention. I'm not going to tell you when in that timeline it is because timelines are very dependent upon the scenario, but just think to yourself, what would be normal at this point in time? Do I need to let some people move or die off before I restart my generators again? Have those thought processes in your mind before you crank that sucker up. Yes, absolutely. Okay, Lori needs to do the same thing I had to do this morning, or actually Tuesday morning. Okay, so next month, the last Thursday of the month, we're going to be doing volume 3 of A American. I'll put the link in the show notes here if you want to order it from Amazon. I think the book is like $18. I'll get 2% of that, which is like 36 cents. Just want to be upfront with you about that. That if you purchase off the link I'm going to put in the show notes down below, then I will make about 36 cents off it if it's an $18 book. And just be aware of that. Now, the other thing is, remember that 60% of that 36 cents, so that's going to be what, 6, 12, 18, a quarter basically out of that 36 cents that I make is going to go towards a charitable organization or two. So 40% goes to the food bank here in Williamson County, Texas. And then the other 20% I save and I give it to an emergency disaster fund, not the Red Cross. But like we have 2 really good disaster response groups here church-based response groups here in the greater Austin area. And so I can donate your money to them when they respond to a wide-scale disaster and they are providing services. So that way we know your money's being put to good use. Okay, so here we go. Let's finish up, and then we're going to close with my normal close. And Okay, let's get to my normal close, which is the book of Numbers, chapter 6. If I can find it here. Come on, chapter 6. There we go. Numbers 6, verses 24, 25, and 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So do me a favor as we close down this evening's discussion. Thank you all for being here. Anybody who has read the book that we're reading for the last Thursday in January, which is going to be volume 3 of the Survivalist series, please feel free to send me an email. I'll send you the link so that you can be on live with me as we discuss the book. And the other one is, please be here Monday night. It should be very interesting as we interview on a live the author, A American, of this series. So remember that we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. And you know what? I wish you all a very happy new year. And please, I'm going to be putting out a video either tomorrow or the 31st about setting goals for 2023. And I'm going to be using Stephen Covey's model of the 7 habits of highly effective people. I'm going to be discussing about how to effectively set goals, accomplishable goals that'll be meaningful in your life. And so I'll be talking about that in the next day or two. And please, if you get a chance, watch that. So happy New Year. Take care. Bye-bye.